Welcome back, everybody. This is Cable Rose. Let's talk leadership. Welcome to the show for today. I have the pleasure of introducing somebody. So rather than just my talking head, I'm going to have another talking head join the show. I have a Sherry Clark. Sherry Clark is from the Amarillo area. She is the principal of the K through 11 Will Dorado. She's out here at the high school here for Will Dorado. And she is an educator by trade. She spent 16 years as an educator and a teacher, and I had the pleasure of bringing her on today to talk about our show. But I'd like to introduce Sherry and have Sherry just kind of tell us about herself, and we'll get into some Star Wars here pretty soon. So, Sherry, welcome.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm very honored to be here. I've known Cable for my training experience, and I think he's a great guy, so it's a privilege to be here. Like you said, I'm Sherry Clark. I've been in education for a little over 25 years. I taught high school math and English for 16, and I have been in leadership and training for about the last 10 years. So I love it. I love working with people, and I think there's nothing better than improving as a leader.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sherry. Do me a favor. The current times that we're living in, the COVID-19 and the very quick and sudden shift of your world, can you just kind of give us a rundown? What's it really look like out there for education and how you guys have adapted to what's happening with everything?
Well, I think first and foremost, our kids are scared and trying to figure out what's going on and stuff like that. So what we're using in the state of Texas, especially our governor and our commissioner, is continuity of education. So
Okay.
one of our priorities is to keep that continuity going so that the kids don't have disruptions and stuff like that in their learning. But I think probably the biggest thing is just reassuring them that everything's going to be okay. Yep. We're still there for them. We'll get through this together and all that. We're doing distance learning, but what we've found in the last couple of weeks is that if we have a Zoom meeting or a Google Meet meeting, for example, when the kids get to see each other and see our faces, they're excited. So that personal touch is still just as important even through this as it was before. It's just virtually personal touching them.
I like that. No, I dig that. So it's kind of interesting because that's our current situation, and the life that we're living is this new virtual, and how do we connect and how do we make that? And so as I told my audiences last week, I'm finding means in which to grab ideals out of almost nowhere, such as Star Wars, and still make them purposeful. And so, Sherry, I gave you a couple of statements that you could choose from, and it's actually kind of ties in. You chose this particular statement from Star Wars Clone Wars, and so I'm going to mention it, and then I want to kind of hear your thoughts as why you chose it and what your thoughts are exactly that, because I think it just tied in to exactly what you were talking about here with you guys transferring to the virtual but still making that connection. So here's the statement that Sherry chose. You hold on to your friends by keeping your heart a little softer than your head. And I'll say it again. You hold on to your friends by keeping your heart a little softer than your head. So do me a favor, Sherry. Out of the list you had, why did you pick this one, and what does it really mean to you?
Well, I think especially in the field of education, and my experience and my personality is that you're going to win people over. A true leader is going to touch their hearts more than their minds. And so that's kind of been my passion as a teacher in the classroom, and now as a leader, and even a training educators, is that, we have, for example, the STAR test that they have to take. Mm-hmm. You can have all the knowledge in the world about STAR, but if the kids don't relate to you, they don't care what you have to say to them and stuff like that. So I think that it translates beyond education into everything else. I think it is all about connecting with the heart and stuff like that more than the mind.
Okay. Now, Sherry, you and I, we do go back a couple years now. We're both very personable. We're both very, so when I told you Star Wars, you probably were like, yep, that's exactly right up Cable's field. He loves some Star Wars, and it makes sense to tie it into the leadership concepts. So I appreciate that, but I really loved a second ago when you and I were talking just before we started recording, you had mentioned the heart and the mind, and you talked about, so do me a favor, lead me into that, because I kind of like where that was going as well.
Okay. Well, there's a book and there's something that's been out for a while called The Art and Science of Teaching. And I've really kind of applied that in the last 10 years when I've been in leadership. I think there's an art and a science to leadership as well.
Okay.
I think art is the brain part, the knowledge, and what I consider about, when I consider that, I consider that trainable. The art is more of the heart part. Okay, it's more of the intrinsic skills. It's relating to people and all that stuff, and that can be harder to train.
Okay.
So I think you have to have a combination as a leader. But if I'm looking at two people and I'm trying to decide between the two, I'm going to pick the person who is stronger in the art or the heart part than the mind, because I can train the other.
The
But
mind
it's
and science
hard
you
to
can
train
train.
when it comes to caring about people and relating to people and understanding their needs.
So I appreciate that, because in my background and as well, we connected over soft skills. And we talk a lot about how people connect. And you're right. There's some things you can train and something you can teach. And there's some things that are just sometimes innate in people, that they just have that ability. And so I do want to build those hearts of the arts. I like that. But I also want to train the mind and the science. So I
Exactly.
appreciate both sides of that. I love the fact that, and again, my niche is going to be Star Wars, right? I'm preaching into Star Wars, but I love the fact that it's universal. It doesn't matter if it's a Star Wars opening statement or if it's Sherry Clark coming out of, the classroom and or in charge of how many students you got out there at Will Dorado.
We have about 200 students right now,
Yep.
and about 28 to 30 staff.
Okay. Is that a 2A school? I don't know that. Is that a 2A school?
We're a 1A. We're pretty small. We are pre-K through 11.
Yep.
We used to be a pre-K through 6, and then we passed the bond. Now we're a high school.
Yes.
So we're doing a grade every year. So that's been a very interesting experience, and it's kind of neat to be a part of that, because you get to put your thoughts and your stuff into the vision.
Yep.
So
I came from a 2A school down in San Antonio. So San Antonio has some of the largest schools in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Right outside, it was a military installation, a military base. I had 52 seniors in my senior class, so a very small
Wow.
senior class. But right outside the gate, like in a classroom, you could see outside the gate, and down the hill was Judson, Converse Judson. And they were like a super 5, now they got 6 and 7As and all these crazy stuff. But when I was growing up, there was 10,000 students down the street. And in my
Wow.
school, we had 300. So we talk about heart and mind. I don't know what it looks like in those larger academic realms, those larger areas, how hard it is to connect to hearts, because obviously there's 10,000 of them versus someone like you and I, we have 200 hearts or 300 hearts. How do we connect those as well?
Well, and I think too, when it comes to that stuff, I think you connect with where you are and what you have to work with. For example, we look at the movies like The Blind Side, where she just had this great impact on one kid, or Stand and Deliver, all these movies. Well, as a teacher, I taught in a larger school in Amarillo. Okay. I had about 160 kids I saw a day. So I had 160 opportunities to touch the heart of somebody. And as a leader, if you're inspiring your people to do the same thing, then you are able to touch the hearts of, let's say, 10,000, because you've touched the hearts of each person who's touching the hearts of those kids, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does.
Direct kind of thing.
Nope, it absolutely does. That's a pretty powerful statement, and I think it's a very unique scenario that you're in, with the opportunity to come in with these grades as you add them on. So unfortunately, this year with the COVID-19 and everybody having to space out, I'm glad to know that this wasn't someone's senior year, their first attempt, right? So
yes.
now next year, when we get back into the system, and we'll hopefully have that, and they'll get to walk that stage, having built 12 years of a team coming across that stage for next year. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and even going through this stuff, one of the things that I've, and trying to visit with my teachers and having a touch with them, it talks about tough times don't damage your character, they reveal your character.
Yes.
And so I think that through these tough times, as I was preparing for this and I decided the statement that I wanted to do, I was thinking about really the first leaders besides their families that kids experience are teachers.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it.
5 years old, kindergarten, right?
With leaders and stuff like that. And so when you think about your own childhood and you think about your own education, and you talk to other people and you say, tell me about a teacher that had the most impact on you, a teacher that you remember. Very rarely, if ever, are you going to hear, this Miss So-and-so taught me, I never knew how to do fractions and now I can do fractions. It is always that personal heart touch and connection. And when you start Googling, for example, leadership quotes and stuff like that, things like people don't leave jobs. They leave bosses.
Oh yeah.
So another reason, I think education may be a small microcosm of the universe, you know how things are, but I think it's that way with everything.
I love it. Sherry, I know, again, here it is Thursday afternoon, after a long, you guys had a whole distance learning day as well. And so I appreciate your time. I look forward to these chats, both with you. I know you and I still need to still rub elbows once COVID-19 is over. But I do appreciate you coming on today and being a part of this. This really is an opportunity. I love reaching out because it's not just my ideals and it's not just Star Wars, but I love to see that connection across the universe. So to everybody online, everybody coming, Sherry, I appreciate you being here, and we look forward to the next time we have you on as well. Yep. Sherry, you guys enjoy. To everybody else online, I'll catch you guys on a flip-flop.